Immerse yourself in the lives of the BYU Cougars. This is Deep Blue. This is Deep Blue with Jason Shepard.
Thanks for tuning in for a new episode of Deep Blue. This is the show where we get to know the person behind the number that you see on the field or the court. These are the true stories of BYU athletes from their own mouths. My guest today, BYU football safety Tanner Wall. Tanner, it's always good to see you. How are you?
So good to see you too, Jason. I'm doing great.
I think the last time we were together was the St. George Fan Fest. We had you on set and we were talking. Had a lot of people watching.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy those types of activities and the interactions with BYU fans?
I love it. I mean, we got the best fans in the world, so just wherever we go, seeing them come out and support, it's just really special. And you know, I was once one of those kids who, like, my idols were BYU athletes, right? Specifically BYU football players. Like, I remember the first time I saw Austin Collie, I was like, it was like a spiritual experience for me. But so yeah, I love interacting with the kids and the families. It's really fun.
What does that, because you grew up that way, and I think you see this a lot more in college than maybe you do in the pros, because you don't get a lot of times get a chance to choose where you go in the pros. But when you get a chance to choose where you play in college, a lot of times it is because that's the team you grew up with. That's the team you followed. That's who you always dreamed of playing. How much more does it mean to you to be in the position you are today because you were that kid once?
Oh, it means so much. Like, to really see it all come full circle, right? That being the dream. I feel like, most young kids, they dream of, in the church are like, I want to play football, or I want to play basketball or baseball at BYU, right? And there's a large pool of kids, lots of great athletes, right? But there's only so many who actually get that opportunity. So, being on this end of it, just, taking advantage of every moment and cherishing it and being very grateful for everyone who was sacrificed to get me here.
Well, you certainly have given your all to BYU. Let's go over all of the many hats that you wear. So obviously you're a football player. You were co-captain last year. BYU Pathways mentor, is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Co-chair on BYU Student Athlete Advisory Committee.
Yep.
Okay. You were an academic All-American. And you're MBA, you got your MBA at the Marriott School last year as well?
Working on it
right now.
Yeah.
When do you have the time for all this?
The Lord makes time. That's all I'll say. When you focus on the right things, you can always find a way. But I just feel a great deal of responsibility to give my all. I've been blessed with great talents and abilities and I know that I've been given that to help and to serve and to bless other people. So just really look for those opportunities to lead in all those different ways.
Is your personality one where you need to be busy like that, always with something to do?
Absolutely. When I have nothing to do, I go crazy. Like, I feel uncomfortable, start getting a little itch. I'm like, I got to go do something. And my wife's the same way, so we just are always keeping busy with whatever it is we're doing.
Okay, so this is an opportunity to give your wife a shout out. What's her name? How did you guys meet?
Yeah. So my wife's name is Corinne. So Corinne, she's from Layton, Utah. So we met through some mutual friends. We got introduced one time randomly at the bowling alley, funny enough. Miracle Bowl on State Street.
Okay.
We used to go every Tuesday. And so one time we were like, let's just invite everyone we know. Like, let's just pack out Miracle Bowl. So like 60 people showed up. We had like 10 lanes. It was a party. So we got introduced that night, but then a couple months later, we saw each other again at one of our really good friends' wedding receptions. We didn't realize that we had mutual friends, and she found out that I also served my mission in Brazil. So she served her mission in Brazil, and so we started talking about that. And
it's similar times?
Same time. Like polar opposite ends of the country, but we were there.
So different missions.
Different missions.
But both in Brazil.
Yep. It'd be like serving in, let's say, like Vermont and Florida.
Right.
So, really far. Very different cultures, but, obviously we both speak Portuguese, so we had our first like legitimate conversation in Portuguese, which was really fun. And then from there, it just kind of took off.
Does that help to be able? Because I know, like I was not a foreign speaking missionary, so I did not have to learn a new language. But I know people that have. They always come back with the intention of I'm going to speak it. I don't want to ever lose it. How much does it help to have somebody in the house that can speak it? If you guys wanted to just make sure that you stay fresh with it.
Oh yeah, it's really helpful, to just be able to, at any moment you can just, work in some Portuguese and practice it. A lot of my good friends and roommates too were guys I actually met in the MTC. So I've been around a lot of Portuguese speakers and been blessed to keep up with it. So
I wanted to ask you about one of the things that we had talked about a second ago, and the BYU Pathways mentor.
Yeah.
For those that aren't aware of what BYU Pathways is, it's a fairly new thing.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what it is, but how you got involved as a mentor in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So BYU Pathways is an education system that's very much designed by the church to be remote, right? It's virtual education. And I think currently there are 70,000 Pathway students worldwide, but they're estimating that it's going to grow so much. I can't remember if the estimation was saying 250,000 by 2030, and then from there it's just going to keep taking off. It's really cool to see how many saints around the world are taking advantage of the opportunity to get that education. But I actually got involved. I got connected to a Pathway missionary. His name is Matt Downs. Is a close friend of mine now and a great mentor. And Matt has pretty much devoted his entire life now to creating employment opportunities for Pathway students. And so we kind of created a bridge between BYU Pathways and BYU Athletics by trying to help our Pathway students around the world feel connected, feel like they're, really are part of the BYU community and BYU family. So last summer, during fall camp, so in August, we did a little devotional with some Pathway students from Africa, and we'd kind of handpicked a few of them. Maybe let me back up a little bit. In probably April or May of last year, through Matt, I got involved starting to mentor some of these students, helping them fine-tune their resume, helping them practice interview questions for, these job interviews that they're having. A lot of times they, will interview for, remote jobs, and the wages that they make in remote jobs, in their country is unbelievable, like life-changing, opportunities for them if they can land these remote jobs. So, helping them to learn the language of business and, how to be very comfortable in interview settings. So really cool, just over WhatsApp, sometimes maybe on a Zoom call, but just 10, 15-minute meetings with these people from all over the globe, helping them understand, these business principles. And so then when we got to August, I had kind of known some of these people and been involved in Zoom calls, meeting them. So we handpicked a few of them to, say the prayer for this devotional, this meeting with the team, and share some of their story with us, right? And there's so many amazing stories, but, some of the ones that were shared were about these students who, they will get up at, before the sun goes up, 4 or 5 in the morning, and they, will work all day, and then they'll walk to the chapel to get internet to do class, right, and be on their BYU Pathways classes, and then they'll go home, and they won't sleep very much, and they'll get up and do it all again because they just have these dreams and goals of creating a great life for their families. So, being involved, and actually right now we just started last week. We are doing 10 Pathway meeting devotionals. They're 15 to 20-minute meetings every week during our summer training. And so we've kind of designed this so that we can have someone from, a different country across the world share a message with us. and then someone on our team who either served their mission in that country or speaks that language or has a connection shares a message with them. Just, we're really trying to build the unity with these people all across the world and, make them feel like they're part of our family and that we play for them because we do, right? And they're amazing.
What an unbelievable thing that you're doing. And obviously there is the practical side of it in terms of life skills and things to help people get a job and to better their situation. So there's all those practical things. But also what a great testimony builder it is to be a part of, because the word you used, unity, you're trying to build unity across not just parts of the United States, but across the world, and to be able to bring people together that way and to be able to in a lot of ways share the gospel without even outright quote unquote preaching to somebody,
right?
Just by showing them that you care. What a great testimony builder.
It's amazing. Yeah. We actually do focus and see how a lot of this can be very closely tied to like the gathering of Israel, which is a whole nother thing we could dive into. But, enabling them to, really build an amazing life and communities in their countries, right? And strengthen Zion all across the world is just, it's special to be a part of that.
One of the other things that we mentioned, first team academic All-American, and I did not realize this. Obviously, I know now, but when the press release was sent out that you were named first team academic All-American, I did not realize it had been as long as it had since BYU had one. You were the first in 14 years to receive that type of honor. And I think it goes back to when we were talking about how you balance everything. What, first of all, a prestigious feat to have, but what did that honor mean to you, especially knowing that it had been so long since someone at BYU had earned that honor?
Yeah, I was, so excited, just so thrilled to receive that recognition. There's a lot that goes into being a student athlete, but my mom's a teacher, so I've really grown up my whole life really valuing education and understanding how important it is, and it's something that's like of the utmost importance to me. And so, being recognized for all that effort, not only as a football player, but in the classroom, and being able to combine those, right? Because, as some people kind of explained it to me, like, you can't just be a great student, right? You also have to be a great football player. So, like, to be recognized in a way that combines both of those things was really special, and I think, speaks to my identity and who I am as both a student and an athlete.
When football is over, whenever that is, what is the plan? Are you looking to be a teacher? I mean, what is the plan for you?
So I got my undergrad in finance.
Okay.
And then I'm currently working on my MBA, also in finance.
Okay.
So I've done a couple internships. I've done a real estate internship. I've been interning the last year at an oil and gas company just right here in Provo that does a lot of drilling operations in eastern Utah, out in the Uinta Basin. But I'm just really excited and fascinated by this world of like venture capital and private equity. I'm involved in a startup right now with a former teammate and his brother-in-law. That's been really exciting. So yeah, I love that entrepreneurial world and would love to be involved in that.
Well, for those that are listening to this who are local, meaning within the state of Utah, but even specifically Utah County, what is it about this area that breeds entrepreneurs? Because I think per capita, and we hear people talking about the amount of startups and all of the entrepreneurs that come out of this area. What do you think it is here in the state of Utah, but specifically Utah County, that breeds such entrepreneurial spirit?
That's a great question, and I'm sure there's people a lot smarter than me who've probably come up with good answers to that. But I would say, I think it's something to do with our culture, in that we are very willing to put in the amount of effort and work and kind of take a chance and just bet on yourself, right? And I think it's because, we are comfortable being uncomfortable, right? A lot of us have, put ourselves in situations that were extremely uncomfortable, right? To be an 18-year-old kid who's sent across the world to a country that you don't know the culture, you don't know the language, and you just figure it out. It's like, well, in a business sense, an entrepreneurial sense, it's like, I can figure it out, right? I know enough people. I'm comfortable getting mentors and having guidance and, looking for these things. And I think also it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing, where there's so many great entrepreneurs here, and what do? They mentor all the young ones. And it's just this cycle where there's these amazing mentors like iHub. I don't know if you know what iHub is. It's the innovation hub, that's kind of been sponsored by Corbin Church and Brandon Hatch and and Casey Baugh, like some of these local entrepreneurs who had a lot of success, and they're like, okay, we need an incubator where we can give students and these young entrepreneurs an environment where they can have success. And so that's, if you go over there and you see how hard the people are working and see, what people are working on and how driven they are, it's amazing. And so I think culturally we kind of align ourselves with taking a chance on ourselves, but also I would say the network and the relationships of our culture also, where it's like, I know enough people who can help me. I know someone who knows someone who can help me. And so we're just willing to take that shot.
You had mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that you've been a BYU guy your whole life. This was a dream place for you to go and to be a part of. You mentioned Austin Collie and seeing him and how that affected you. What is your earliest memory of BYU football?
So my earliest memory of BYU football, I have a picture of it, but it's so my uncle JR played here, JR Tulane in the early 2000s, but I was probably 6 years old. We were here at a home game, and I'm standing there watching the team come out of the tunnel. We were down on the sideline, and I saw Austin come out, and it was just like, because I'd been watching him in warm-ups, like my eyes were just glued to him. I was just like, dude, this is the guy. Like, this is my idol. And so, and they go back in, they come out, like the full team, and they're all in pads, right? And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so excited, like, to watch this game. Like, being down on the field and witnessing that was amazing. And then I think my next closest memory, or maybe biggest memory, was watching Johnny Harleen catch the ball in the end zone.
Yes, Beck to Harleen,
and
2006
dogpiling with my uncles and my dad and my grandpa in the basement where we were watching, and we were just over the moon. So I think those were probably in about the same year but those are my two earliest memories.
So because of that, do you think that's why you gravitated towards football? Did you play other sports and then eventually sort of decided to focus on football, or was it always football for you?
So interestingly enough, I grew up playing a lot of baseball and basketball. Those were like my two main sports. Funny enough, I was kind of a little guy. Like, I was just a short, scrawny kid for a long time. And so I finally convinced my parents to kind of let me play football. I had always wanted to play, but I was so little. And so my freshman year of high school, 9th grade, in the summer, I remember showing up, to get a helmet and pads and for weigh-ins. And I'm not joking or exaggerating when I say this. I was 5'3", 99 pounds. I didn't even weigh 100 pounds in 9th grade. And so fortunately on the program, they spotted me 1 inch and 5 pounds. So I was 5'4", 105. So there's evidence of that. But I was a little guy, but, I loved the game of football and really fell in love with it the more that I played it, and realized, I think if I work really hard at this, it could, generate some opportunities for me. And so really, I kind of stopped playing basketball in high school and was just a baseball, football guy. people might tell you I was probably better at baseball than football, but football I just fell in love with and wanted to continue playing.
Do you think you could have had similar type success in baseball had you decided to go that route?
I think so, absolutely. I actually had an opportunity to play to school in Virginia and play both football and baseball.
Because you're from Virginia, so yes.
Yeah. So the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, was like, yeah, if you come here, you can play football and baseball. I was like, wow. So thought about that for a minute, but really the dream was to be out here at BYU.
All right, we're going to get into that coming up in just a second, but we're going to stay in your high school times for just a little bit. We're going to take a quick break. We will have more with Tanner Wall when we return. This is the Deep Blue Podcast on BYU Radio. Hi, everybody. Jason Shepard here, host of the Deep Blue Podcast. I want to make sure that you're aware of all of the other great podcasts we have on BYU Radio, like Her Why, hosted by Lauren McLean. It's all BYU women's athletics all the time. These great athletes join Lauren to share their personal stories of triumphs and trials, and we've got some of the best women's athletic teams in the NCAA. This is their story. This is their why. Listen to it wherever you get podcasts. Welcome back to the Deep Blue Podcast here on BYU Radio. I'm your host, Jason Shepard. My guest, BYU safety, Tanner Wall, joining me here today. And before the break, we were talking about your high school days, and you grew up in Virginia. And would you consider yourself a dominant high school player? Because you played both offense and defense. In fact, you were player of the year on offense and defense. Is that correct? In the county that you're from in Virginia?
Yep.
So, are we talking like Travis Hunter style here?
Pretty much.
Could you give Travis Hunter a run for his money right now?
I think in the high school days, we were probably on par with stats, but he's pretty elite. Okay,
so for those that maybe are just tuning in now, before the break, you said when you started in ninth grade, 5'3", 99, 5'3", 99 pounds, and they gave you the benefit of the doubt, boosted you up to 5'4", and
105.
And 105. So how do you go from that to being dominant and player of the year on offense and defense?
It took a lot of work, right? I was very patient with it. I knew that I would, grow eventually. My grandpa actually, before his mission, was coming to BYU on a wrestling scholarship and he was probably like 5'7", 150, 145 pounds. Came back off his mission like 6'3", 210. So he grew a ton on his mission. And so, I kind of just understood, I'm going to grow eventually. Hopefully it's not that late. I'm
still waiting for my growth spurt, by the
way. So yeah, grew a couple inches every year. But, during that time was just really focused on, okay, how can I, obviously size is not going to be an edge I have in high school football. So I'm going to need to make up for that with speed, agility, technique. And so just, and I could still be, strong by training, and hitting the weight room hard. And so focused on all those ways I could get better and just trusted that, the height, the size would come, which it did. At the end of my high school career, felt really comfortable in the body I was in playing football and was able to have a lot of success.
Did you enjoy the recruiting process after high school? Because you mentioned the VMI said that you could play baseball and football if you went there, but it's my understanding you had schools like Columbia, Harvard, Princeton, Yale. Obviously, you wanted to go to BYU, but knowing how academically involved you are, I would think that some of these other schools would certainly appeal to you.
Yeah.
How did you handle the recruiting process?
It was tough, my recruiting happened pretty late as well. Didn't really have tons of opportunities until, much later in my junior year, going into my senior year. But those schools, those Ivy League schools, I was very much inclined to maybe go down that route. But I was holding out because I was like, I want to be a Cougar, man. I want to play in the Velodrome Stadium. I want to play for this team that I've dreamed of playing for my whole life. And so that opportunity actually came, and it is somewhat of a miracle in itself. I feel like it's a story worth telling if I can dive into that.
Please.
So I had come out to camp, the BYU football camp, that summer going into my senior year. And for the week that I was there at camp, I was named the MVP of the wide receivers. So at the time I was kind of being recruited as an athlete, but more so as a wide receiver, which I'm sure you know. I played wide receiver in my first 2 seasons here and then ended up switching to the other side of the ball. But so I had a great relationship with Coach Cahoon. Wanted to see a little bit more from me in my tape during my senior year. And then had a great senior year, but there were some coaching changes in that staff here at BYU. And so my relationship with you know, the wide receivers coach, you know, didn't really matter anymore because he wasn't here. And so I was like, it was late November, and then December starts coming. I'm like, man, dude, I really just hope that something, you know, will come of this. And amazingly enough, a random BYU fan on Twitter who had been following me, he remembered that I had been the MVP of the wide receivers at camp. And he followed me throughout my senior year, and like he would send encouraging stuff, be like, he would watch my huddle highlights, be like, dude, you're killing it, like keep it up.
Just an average guy.
A random guy, yeah, from Payson. His name's Zach Lovell. So he next thing you know, he messages me and he's like, hey, I it looks like they haven't offered you yet. Like, are you going to try to go somewhere else? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I just really want to be at BYU. I need to get in touch with the coaches. So he's like, I know Coach Steve Clark. And I'm like, okay. So he sends my tape to Coach Clark and is like, hey, I don't know if you remember this guy. He was the MVP of the wide receivers last summer. And so within a day, Coach Clark calls me. And Coach Clark's like, hey, Tanner, we don't have a wide receivers coach on staff right now, but I'd like to offer you as a preferred walk-on. And when we get a wide receivers coach on staff, I'd be happy to introduce you to him. And, you know, I feel comfortable that, you know, he'll honor that, and would love for you to get to know and meet him and come play for us and have a spot on the team. So that was pretty amazing. And so, you know, later in my senior year, it was during baseball season, actually, I came out for a visit and got to meet Fessy and, you know, kind of put a face to my name and you know, kind of telling him my plans. I was going to go on a mission and come back. And so that was cool. And, you know, we were able to work that out.
Was there any hesitation because it was preferred walk-on for you?
No.
All you cared about is that BYU said, you know what, come on out.
Yep. And one of the amazing things about, you know, BYU too is just how affordable the education is. And I was fortunate enough to be on academic scholarship for most of my time here too, as a student. And so that really helped. And also what I think was an additional factor in knowing, okay, going there won't be as much of a financial burden because, you know, I'm in a good spot with school and just really want to play there.
I guess you could look at it one of two ways. And obviously any athlete at that level that chooses to go on a mission, I'm sure you have these thoughts. But I would imagine knowing that is waiting for you can either take the pressure off or be something that you're constantly anxious for to get to. How was it a situation where knowing that was taken care of for you when you were on your mission in Brazil, did that help to sort of be able to put that aside knowing that had been taken care of? Or was it the other situation?
I think I was kind of on the other end of the spectrum, you know, where I was like, you know, hopefully that will be honored, right? Obviously being a preferred walk-on, it's kind of a word of mouth agreement type thing. And, you know, those things can change. But I knew that when I got home, I was really going to have to prove myself and, you know, really show the coaches that I'm someone who, you know, deserves to be on the team and eventually deserves to, you know, have some playing time and contribute. And so was very motivated throughout the mission to work hard in the mornings as much as I could. And then, you know, once I got home, just hit it hard to be ready for that opportunity and not let it slip.
everyone's mission will affect them in different ways and will continue to affect them throughout their entire life. How has your mission affected you, certainly then and now?
I always tell people like the accomplishment in my life that I'm most proud of is my mission, right? And being a return missionary. Just because it's interesting how at least for me, my perspective shifted so much from before my mission to after, right? Because, I'm this young, naive kid thinking, dude, I'm giving up so much, right? I'm putting my football career in jeopardy. Like all my friends out there, where I was, I'm like, I'm going to be 2 years behind everyone I know. But when you're out there, and when I was out in the mission field, just coming to realize like the Lord is giving you so much more than you're giving him. And the amount that I grew and as a person and as a disciple and as a son, as a brother and all those things, and how much I developed, the things I learned in the streets of Brazil that I couldn't have possibly learned anywhere else. And what the Lord really gave me is invaluable, right? And how he blessed me during that time. And, I always tell people if the football path had come to an end because of that, then it would have been worth it to go and to serve the Lord and do that for him and how it has blessed me. And, really, I think another thing that it really taught me and something I value so much now is relationships. And the people I met were incredible. And I still try to stay in touch with so many of them, as many as I possibly can. One of the coolest things for me, actually, there was a girl who I was able to teach and baptize who then went on and served a mission. She returned from her mission, met a guy on Mutual, on the global setting of Mutual from Utah, and she moved here a few months ago, and they just got married and sealed in the temple. So, you leave your mission. If you're a foreign missionary, sometimes, you leave your mission not knowing if you'll ever see any of those people ever again. So being able to, see her and see how much joy and how much success she's having in life is amazing.
Take me through then when you return home from your mission and then you end up at BYU.
Right.
You're there and now the real work begins. So take me through what those first couple of months were like as you're trying to make this team and to prove yourself to the coaches.
Yeah. That was also kind of a crazy time because I got home from my mission right during COVID, right? So I actually came home a little bit early because of COVID. I got cut short by about 3 months. So I had just hit 21 months, and we found out that all the foreign missionaries were being sent home, and any elder over 18 months was released. And so immediately, when I got home, it was trying to work with Coach Fessy and texting and calling with him and figuring out, okay, when can I come out and start training and all these things. And I was a little bit frustrated because I don't know that I understood truly how hectic that was from a roster management perspective to deal with everything that was going on. And so I wasn't able to come out and actually train with the team at all that off season, in that summer leading into the 2020 season. I ended up gray shirting that fall. So, throughout that time, was out here training a lot. I actually trained with former BYU receiver Colby Pearson quite a bit. We worked a lot together and very grateful for his mentorship and everything that he kind of helped me to do in that time, coming back off my mission. And so that gray shirt time, it was kind of rough. We were able to train for a minute, but then because of COVID regulations, they're like, okay, you guys can't be in the weight room. So we would go in and we'd take pictures of the lift and go lift somewhere else. And that was it was a big group of us, and it wasn't just return missionaries. There were guys straight out of high school that because of the roster challenges, they threw in as gray shirts. Like John Nelson and Blake Mangelson, those are my guys in that gray shirt class. There were 20 of us in that class, and just through attrition and other things, John, Blake, and I were the only 3 from that group who really remained our whole career here at BYU. So yeah, I was able to officially join the team in the winter of 2021 and have my first spring ball then, and apparently showed Coach Fessy just enough to kind of stay on the team. And that first season understood that I was going to, be a special teams-esque player. Was able to, my first game ever dressing was Utah at home earlier in that week.
Turned out to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, for a first game dressing as a player, that was pretty elite.
Not too shabby.
No. But I, earlier in that week, made a few plays on like the scout special teams. And Coach Lamb in one of the team meetings made me stand up. He was like, "Tanner Wall, are you dressing for the game on Saturday?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, you are now." So that was a really cool moment. And we obviously stormed the field, and somehow amongst that frenzy of people, I find my dad on the field.
Really?
For the first game I'd ever dressed for, breaking the streak, beating Utah. And I'm like, dude, this is like one of the sweetest moments.
Yeah, what is that moment like? In a sea of thousands, tens of thousands of people, and you find your dad. Wow.
First of all, I'm just glad that he stormed the field, right? Because some of the older folks they're not into that.
They're not gonna tempt that.
They're a little scared of the 5-foot drop, off the wall. But no, my dad was down there, and because he's a diehard, and he kind of instilled that in me from a very young age. So I knew he would be out there, but I didn't know and expect to find him. So just like hugging him and celebrating, like it was a very, very cool moment.
So then take me through how Tanner Wall, the receiver, becomes Tanner Wall, the safety.
Yeah, that's there's kind of a lot that went into that. So playing 2 years of receiver, that first season I played in 4 games on special teams, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna redshirt you." So that was cool because I was like, okay, if they're gonna redshirt me, they must.
They're invested in you.
Yeah, they think that down the line I could provide more value than I'm providing right now. And so that next season, I played in all 13 games on special teams. I think I took the second most snaps of anyone on special teams. I think it was me and Talmadge Gunther. But throughout that time, being on the scout offense, I was working against the defense every day, right? So the defensive coaches were seeing me compete every single day in the way that I did things. Coach Gavin Fowler, was the one running the scout team. And obviously he is our safeties assistant now. And, with all the responsibilities that Jay has, Gavin is running a lot of our stuff all the time. And so it just became one of those things where they were like, at first it was the strength coaches, like, "Hey, like you should think about maybe playing safety." And then it was Coach Fowler, and then it was Kalani, and then it was, next thing you know, there's like 10 coaches who are like, "I think you should do it." Funny enough, actually, my freshman year, the UVA week, Coach Lamb pulled me in to play safety, and I was gonna, play a little bit of safety in that game because we were playing like a dime against their air raid offense that year, and there were some things that went on, and so I ended up going back to receiver. But so clearly it had been a thought that had been around amongst all the coaches. And so after the 2022 season, sat down with Coach Kalani, and he's like, "We believe in you as a player. We really want to support you in this position switch." And the timing of it was perfect because that's right when Coach Hill came in. Mm-hmm. So I'm in this room of safeties, right, and felt like I was almost on even ground because we're all learning a new system. And so one of my strengths, obviously, is my football IQ and learning and being able to dominate the game mentally. And so I felt like that kind of gave me a great opportunity to climb the depth chart, which it did. So And then, coming into the 2023 season, pretty early on, I think by game 3, I was, starting at safety, which was really cool.
The 2024 season, for a lot of reasons, was pretty special. And it's gonna be one of those seasons that people talk about like they talk about 96 and all the 2006. It's gonna be one of those years that people talk about with so much fondness and appreciation and nostalgia. When you look back on the 2024 season, what stands out to you in a season that I'm going to assume there are a lot of things that stood out to you?
I think one of the best things, honestly, was just the way that we proved and established ourselves, right? And because throughout that entire offseason, we got zero respect, right? We were picked to finish, I think
13th.
Third. Yeah, third to last in the conference, coming off kind of a tough first year in the Big 12. And no one expected that level of success from us other than the guys in the building, right? Just us. Even our families sometimes were like, I don't know how good you guys are going to be. And it's like, hey, we got to tune them out, right? Because we believe in ourselves and our brothers and know what we're capable of. So just game by game, seeing the product we put on the field, I think it really became real with that Kansas State win at home where we just smoked them.
That kicked everything off. You guys were playing well, but that's the game that had everybody else on the outside start to pay attention.
Exactly, where they were like, okay, this BYU team might be dangerous. That middle 8, the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, where we were just, it was like unbelievable.
I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I was up in the press box just in awe of what that before the half, that roughly 2 minutes that just changed the course of that game.
So after that game, it was like, all right, like we've got something really special going here. Let's keep stacking the wins. We have the crazy ending to the rivalry game up in Rice Eccles and are able to break the losing streak up there, which had been a long time since we'd won up there. Just watching Will Farron put that kick through the uprights was just the sweetest feeling. Like we're standing on the sideline, linked in arms, just telling each other, just believe, like we're going to win this game. And to see it just unfold like that was awesome. And, just looking back and to kind of, cap the season off with an amazing bowl game and a bowl victory where also no one expected us to play as good as we did in that game, right? And even as we were playing so well, they're not talking about us. The focus is on Colorado and Dion and Shador and Travis. And, we smoked them. And so to really see how all the work we put in last offseason, the sacrifices we made, turn into such a special season was awesome. But, there's still little reminders of how close we were to something even way more special. So, it's a great reminder that one or two plays can really change the course of a game. And, we were really close to something much cooler.
Speaking of the Alamo Bowl game against Colorado, I think there's going to be a lot of people that will remember a specific hit that you made that turned out well for BYU. Do you have a favorite play or a favorite hit? And by chance, is it that one? I mean, do you look at it like that? Like I have a favorite hit, or is it more about games and things like that?
I do probably focus more on the games, but in that game, that's definitely my favorite hit, my favorite
Take
play.
everybody through the play.
So right at the start of the second half, they come out. We'd really been focused all week on, disguising our coverage and making that confusing for Shador, which we know worked because there's the funny clip of him with the iPad on the sideline talking to Travis saying before the play, I don't know what they're doing. Like, he had no clue what we were doing. So that specific play, we were in kind of a quarters-esque defense, but I showed like low man over the number 3 receiver. And so I'm sure Shedeur thought, okay, I'm just going to rip this whole shot outside. And before the snap, I just bailed straight to it. And he still made a nice throw. Like, he almost fit it in there, but the timing of it was perfect. And, it was just, I knew I wasn't going to be able to pick it off. So I was like, okay, I got to just light this dude up and, hit him. And I didn't realize how close Evan Johnson was to me when I did that. So, getting up off the ground, while I was on the ground after I'd hit him, I just heard the crowd just go nuts. And I'm like, was that just because of the hit? And then I see Evan running with the ball, and I'm like, no way. So, yeah, that was a sweet play.
That was quite the capper of an unbelievable season. And all the hype going into that game was about Colorado, and it was still so funny to hear the commentators trying to find ways to talk about things they had no idea they were going to be talking about, because you guys had taken all of the storylines out of the game, because they thought they were going to talk about Colorado racking up the points and Shedeur and Travis Hunter, touchdown after touchdown. Just an unbelievable game. So now, as we wrap things up, let's bring it to 2025. You guys certainly are not going to be picked 13th. You're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. How excited are you and your teammates to be able to go out this season and prove that last year was not a one-year type thing?
We're stoked. We had a team meeting yesterday where Kalani talked about that, where it's like, everyone thinks last year was a fluke. And he talked about how, in some of those games, the fashion in which they were won, it was like, people like, wow, BYU, they got lucky, quite a few times. And so, we're really focused on wanting to go dominate, right? And have these wins where it's like, okay, there's no question, where it's like, okay, BYU got lucky in 5 games. Okay, we're not going to have that conversation, where we're piecing together great games where we're playing our best on all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, and winning games in that manner where there's no question, who the better team on the field is. And we're excited about our schedule. We're excited about everyone that we get to play. We have kind of that sour taste in our mouth of almost going to a Big 12 championship and potentially the college football playoff. And so we have kind of a championship mindset where it's like, let's go make this happen, right? It's in our hands. We can achieve whatever we want to as a team, and we're all united in that goal to go make that happen.
Every BYU fan listening right now has got a huge smile on their face hearing that. Tanner, thank you so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun. It's been really fun for me to get to know you over this last little bit. You're such a good dude, and I appreciate beyond anything you do on the football field. You're just a good guy, and I appreciate you being willing to do this.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great to be here with you today, Jason. Thanks for letting me share a little bit of my story.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks once again to my guest, Tanner Wall. My name is Jason Shepard. Ben Hall produced this episode. Deep Blue senior producer is Cleon Wall. You can download and subscribe to Deep Blue on all podcast platforms or find all episodes on the BYU Radio app. Deep Blue is a production of BYU Radio.
Woo!